You were created to stand out, to be exceptional, to be unique by design. So welcome to Exceptional Living. Well, hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Exceptional Living. I want to thank all of our viewers, our subscribers, and those who simply just like this broadcast and want to encourage you to please share, like, subscribe, and share if you have not already. As you know, our purpose with Exceptional Living is to inform, to inspire, and to ignite the greatness that resides in you. And we do this by sharing life-changing concepts, proven tools and tactics, strategic insights from local and global thought leaders, creatives, innovators, and what we call multi-hyphenate creatives, change agents that will help to equip and empower you for credible influence, distinguishable competency, and indelible impact. And so, in a world where one is conditioned to fit in, know that you, yes, you, were created to stand out, to be unique by design. I'm so excited about our very special guest today, who hails all the way from the beautiful nation of South Africa, Vezi Mncwango. Vezi is the founder and director of The Thought Coach, a company whose primary goal is to facilitate the alignment of organizational systems and mindsets for an ecosystemic enhancement of all stakeholders' value in the workplace. Vezi is the co-founder of Ubuntu Kiti Network, a nonprofit organization that advocates for the advancement of Ubuntu consciousness. He is a leadership coach, a professional associate at GIBS, the Business School of Pretoria University, where he coaches, facilitates, and integrates on leadership programs. Vezi is a certified master coach in neuro-linguistic programming. He holds a B in communications accounting degree from UKZN. He's well-traveled, having worked throughout Africa, the Middle East, and many parts of Europe. He's the author of 2 books, Transforming Glory and Vessels of Glory. And these books show how we can be transformed and reflect God's love for humanity. So, Exceptional Living, please welcome our very special guest, Vezi Mncwango. Hi, Vezi.
Hello, my sister, Dr. April Ripley. Very excited to be with you. I'm a big follower of your work, so I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, Vezi, we are honored to have you. I remember when we first met in Durban, South Africa, at the Purpose Driven House with our dear friend and sister, Dumile Shile, who has also been a guest on our show, and just how thousands of miles away divine connection occurred. And then on my subsequent visits to Durban, certainly meeting you and your beautiful wife. And we are just really excited about the work that you're doing in South Africa and beyond. And thank you again for being on the show today. Yeah. So, Vezi, you know, the show is all about how to live an exceptional life. And so, given your vast background and experience, what does exceptional living mean to you, Vezi?
Yeah, so, I believe that every individual on earth has been brought for a purpose. So each individual has a purpose that we need to fulfill. And so for me, when we talk about exceptional living, it is the process of finding that purpose and it is a purpose of it is a process of living that purpose to the fullest. And so, in essence, therefore, for me, exceptional living is the extent to which we are the fullest manifestation or expression of that purpose for which we have been brought to earth. And I find that the journey, and this is why I love your work, the journey of being inspired and ignited to fulfill our purpose is that journey path to exceptional living.
Vezi, you're right. I love that you use the word journey. Often people will ask me, well, how did you get to where you are? And I say, it was a journey. And I'm still on the journey. And I'm sure for
Mm.
you, it's similar. And so even in the word you use also, process of finding purpose and manifesting that, as you said, to the fullest, it is um, a journey of learning, of unlearning, maybe relearning some things. I know that you're an educator, you're an executive coach, so I'm sure that you have worked through many stages of learning with others. Lizzie, share with us maybe a couple of the salient things that you have discovered in your journey to purpose that would help our listeners.
Yeah, sure. And I want to tell a story. I want to start by telling a story. A few years back, I was coaching some professors from one of the universities in South Africa, and the question that I put to them, I said, who are you?" And in a sense, I think the question took them by surprise, and because they were saying, you know what, here we are, uh, university professors, some of the smartest people on earth, and yet we are struggling to answer this simple question, who are you? And to be sure, this is not an easy question to answer, uh, because the systems we're navigating, um, whether it's work, or family, or communities we are in, we are often told who we should be. And so we often define ourselves with our roles, we define ourselves with our functions. But when you really get in and press people into who they are, you find that they find it difficult to answer that question. So I would say, the first stage, therefore, April, is the ability to be able to define who I am beyond my function, beyond my role. Um, and I often find that who are you is going to be closely tied to the purpose to which I've alluded earlier. And I find that the journey that's anchored on that clarity of that purpose, and therefore the connection on who I am, is much easier than to mark, in terms of, so once I know what my purpose is, who am I, and what is then that path or that journey towards growing my ability of the manifestation of that purpose.
Oh, Vezi, that's so good because, as you said, who we are is the first thing that we have to define because what we do proceeds from who we are. So it starts with we call self-discovery, and part of that is self-awareness of self. And there's a whole lot of things certainly along those lines. But you're right, we often confuse our function and our role to who we are. I remember hearing someone share that they were a communicator. And so they thought about that for a moment. That yes, I'm a communicator. And I communicate in various ways. I'm a writer, I'm a speaker, I'm a filmmaker, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm also a professor. Uh, so that is part of the function that you do because you discovered who you are as a communicator and that journey to your purpose. I love that too, Vivi. The journey. Uh, why did you choose the field of education?
I would say it chose me.
So does purpose choose you, Vezi? Is that what you're saying? Is purpose choosing you?
There's something in me that tells me that, April. And maybe I will just tell my short story because my career started in accounting and auditing.
Mm.
And I was, what I thought was a pretty brilliant auditor in my time. And how I stumbled into this path of education was, as an auditor, there was always a desire in me to make a difference. And so I believed that through auditing, I could add value so that our the corporates, the state institutions could do better, do things better, serve people better. And so that how I saw my role. And and then what happened was, actually, it was in the process of executing one of the research projects that I had started. And what we wanted to discover was, to what extent is the work that we do actually making that difference? And to cut a long story short, we started looking at all the reports that had been produced in the past 10 years and discovered that the audit reports that we're producing were the same all over and over again. And I arrived at a shocking conclusion that I was actually not making a difference that I thought I was making. So I started asking myself a question. So, what is it now that I should do that I've discovered that I'm not adding the value which I thought I was adding? And so this happened in a time that I had been working with a lot of graduates from university, kind of training them, preparing them for the corporate life. Um, and so as we did the analysis from this research, what we found was that the root cause of because we established we asked ourselves, what is the root cause for us not making the impact that we want to make? And so our conclusion was that actually the root cause was not systems and processes that we thought were, but it was actually people. It was alignment of people to purpose, alignment of people to strategy. And I knew then this is what I want to do. And then that's when I actually started studying coaching, because I said, if I'm going to make a difference, and in a sense, that was at the heart of the purpose for which I was born for. So I was saying, if I want to make the greatest impact on the world, it means I actually need to be working with people. And that's how I ended up in coaching. And as I did my coaching, I was invited by the business school, which by the way is the uh, top business school in Africa, top 1% in the world. And I was invited to partner with them in serving our leaders in this continent of Africa by engaging them on this journey of discovery to their own purpose. And so that's how I got there, April.
So you're talking about a journey, definitely, Vezi. You started off in one field in accounting, and I think we may have heard that earlier in your bio. And it's interesting that you had this aha moment, this moment of self-discovery in something that you thought was the path that you wanted to take. And in that moment, It was like at a road divided, right? You come to this point, there's a sign that says this way or keep going. And you said, well, if I keep going, it doesn't really make a difference. So I'll go this way. I'll go this way to discover more. But one of the salient things that you share, Vezi, is that aligning people to purpose.
Mm.
That is the power of transformation. It is helping them release the latent potential that is inside, bring potency out. And I certainly, again, having heard you speak and read your works, would expect no less than you to be at the top 1% business school and sharing. Um, and so, I mean, Vezi, to some of the persons who are watching, they may say, that's great. Vezi was right. He went to these top schools, and that's not my story. How do I discover who I am and create my own story, build my own legacy? What would you share with us?
Yeah, and it's just first April. I love how you've captured the essence of this journey, and you are quite right that um, we need to be cognizant that there are many leaders at different walks of life who are really confronted with this question: how do I find my purpose? Um, uh, and they may even be wondering: is do I have even access to the kind of people who will guide me? And so there's something that I always try and use as a metaphor for for discovering your purpose, and it's something that I think it was Rick Warren who kind of elucidated this method of discovering purpose, and he says that uh, each one of us, we have something that when we look in the world, we have a holy discontentment, as he puts it. Each one of us has a holy discontentment about something that's going on in our ecosystems, in our leadership contexts. And he alludes to that Popeye the Sailor cartoon, where each time something would happen, that he had a holy discontentment toward, he would pick the spinach and eat it, and suddenly he would have this superpower to address it. And in a sense, I would say purpose is actually our spinach in a sense, to empower us, to invigorate us, to inspire us, to be able to address those things that we have a holy discontentment of. And so I think that no matter where a leader is in what leadership context they are navigating, there is always something that that we have a holy discontentment of, and as we look around, and I think as we reflect, as we process that, we you can start journeying towards addressing that. And I think it is in that journey that that discovery, the full unveiling of what that might be, or what it looks like.
I agree. Busy. What more? I have found as well that it's it's kind of like a tapestry or a fabric that we're wearing things. There's many threads that have made up the woven clothing that we wear. But there's always like this foundational thread that if you pull that one thread, other things start to unravel. And I look at purpose as a thread like that, right? That when it's in place, when it's focused, with intention, yes, there could be evolution in some of the things you do, right? So you started kind of teaching through discovering research in the auditing area, and that same kind of purpose of research and alignment to purpose transferred over into education, into coaching, into speaking, into writing, and all these things. But there's still the DNA part. I know sometimes you'll buy a piece of clothing that has a little tag, and it'll say that variations in the hue of this fabric are not a I'm trying to think of the word, Vezi. It's not a when it's not woven correctly. So it's not I'm trying to think of this word if you do. But it's not a defect. Yes, thank you, Holy Spirit.
Yeah,
Defect,
yes, a
right?
defect.
So
Yeah.
variations in this are not a defect of the product. That this is part of the process. And so I think that too on our life journey, right? That we go through things, detours, disappointments, or setbacks. Doesn't mean that we're defective, right? It
Mm,
means
mm.
part of this journey of purpose that you talked about. And Vezi, you work with persons, you coach people, maybe in your own life. I'm sure you've had some different things that have happened unexpected. What would you share with others who are in their life at present and things aren't going as they had hoped, or there was something outside of their control that has now affected them in some way, work, family? What would you tell them um, to hang on, to stick with it? Stick with it.
Yeah, April, as we navigate life, we may find ourselves at places and in terrain that we did not expect to be navigating. Um, and I think I always say to leaders when we have conversations about navigating terrains, that whatever terrain that you find yourself navigating, it may not be where you wanted to be, in terms of maybe career, maybe in terms of relationships. But one thing that any leader who wants to continue making a difference, living on purpose, um, is to really understand the terrain that you are navigating. It may not be the place where you wanted to be, but invest time in understanding the terrain. So it could be in an organization, it could be in a relationship, it could be in a marriage, and you asking yourself, how did I get myself here? And so here is a fundamental, I think all of us, as long as we live on earth, is that effectiveness and a path to exceptional living um, takes two things. Number one, it is to understand ourselves, master ourselves, understand what am I here for, which is personal mastery. But there's the second and often neglected element. It is to understand the terrain that I'm navigating. Um, and so often, and there are many plethora of stories of people who kind of almost stumbled in places they never intended to be, but in their quest to say, I'm still gonna master this terrain, they actually discover a path that is even more powerful than where what they even envisage was possible. So really, that would be my advice, that wherever you are, whether you are there on purpose or not, or whether you are there by accident, master yourself, master your terrain, because exceptional living means that I am moving forward with purpose, with intention, wherever I find myself. And I think, April, life has a way of rewarding us when we invest in mastery,
Mm,
whether of ourselves or the terrain that we're navigating.
I love that. I take notes always because I'm learning. Um, and so the first, as you say, understand yourself. What are you here for? Self mastery. Two, understanding the terrain, the environment where you're
Mm,
placed. Um, and I think of it as a seed. A
yep,
seed knows its purpose is to grow. It's careful of the terrain. It understands its terrain that it's in. I mean, we've seen
yeah.
trees out of farm,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So even how the roots grow, the rock around it are shaped differently to attach to that rock versus if it were in the ground and soil, just in normal environments. And so, what you're talking about, part of mastery and understanding the terrain, really combine both of those things. Vezi, like you said, it's a combination of both. Um, and speaking of terrain, you recently have purchased some terrain
Yes.
that that is a little bit different
Yeah.
than where you live and work. Some farmland. Talk to us about that
Yeah.
because that's a different navigation and skill set. Busy accountant,
Yeah.
professor, and farmer or agricultural list. Talk to us about that.
April, you've really used a really powerful metaphor, and I love the metaphor that you are using about how a seed grows, um, and how a seed, uh, um, no matter what terrain it finds itself, the seed that will thrive and master that terrain is the one that will then produce after itself. So I think that's really powerful, um, for particularly folks who may feel, no, I'm in the wrong field, I made wrong decisions, and so thank you for that. I'm also making notes.
You're welcome.
So about the farm. Yeah, about the farm. So, I have had always had this desire of working the land. Um, and as someone who likes to carve reflective spaces, it started when I was, living in the suburbia. I could notice that each time I spend in the garden, or cutting grass, or whatever, in nature, I always found that there was a depth of thought, a depth of meditation, a depth of prayer that I just naturally uh, transitioned to. And so, as a writer, this is a place I treasure because this is where I can give birth to the narratives, the tools that will serve humanity. And so it was really the quite natural desire then to say, how can I expand this place where I can carve more spaces to do this. And so buying a farm has really afforded me that opportunity. Besides that, in April, in my farm, you can hear yourself think. There is about 4 or 5 cars that go past the road in a day. So it is so quiet that naturally you just kind of descend into that place of meditation, and thought. And I know this is not a privilege everyone has, and I really treasure it. And the other thing, that it's really taught me, April, being on the farm, is the discipline of rigor, the rigor and discipline of the daily routines. and knowing that you have to wake up a certain time to feed the chickens, you have to do certain routines, um, and that there's a sense in which it aligns myself to the rhythm of life, that it just gets me to a place where I feel what I call flow, a connection with nature, connection with myself, connection with God. My purpose, as I define it, April, is to serve humankind, and particularly leaders, to illuminate what I call their cognitive landscapes. And so the more flow I find in these connections, the more I'm able to unravel the challenges that leaders are navigating, and the more I can think through how I can serve them better. So that's the farm story, and it's really been a blessing in our lives.
Yes, I saw. I was tracking your, no pun intended. I was tracking your your post, and it's interesting because a few years back there was an article that came up on the Yahoo. They have the little headlines where whatever email there's always headlines, and it said things that your grandparents can do that you can't. And one of those happened to be farming, and some other things like you talked
Yeah,
about
yeah,
and how to feed and resource and to self-sustain yourself. And so, Vezi, I think that even in the farm, that's part of, I love what you said, the discipline and the rhythm of the routine, but also the sequence and processes that are necessary to yield a harvest, to grow the chickens. Um, and recently I was in a conversation and someone was sharing about that. The conversation was about resource and that God doesn't waste anything.
yeah, yeah,
Scripture says in Romans that all things work together for the good of those who are called. Right? So even
yeah,
the good and the bad, they work together. And we're talking about not wasting resources. So even on the farm, even in the ecosystem, something dies, it becomes fertilizer for the soil. When the seed goes in, there's fertilizer in the soil. It grows up, it falls, the sun. So all of these things work together, and there is this. I can tell you, when you go outside the city spaces and you look up into the sky, which is intentionally blue, you look at the green grass and you look at the brown earth, there's something that happens to us, I think, as humans when we touch and feel and our hands get in the dirt. um,
one more thing, April,
yeah,
about family. I have a message for all men who
yes.
are watching this show right now. And this is a true story. I stumbled across a research article that showed, that demonstrated that manual labor, uh, um, so half an hour of manual labor, um, burns much more calories, is good for our cardiovascular system than half an hour of gym. And really, I have found that manual labor is good. And that article was saying actually men in particular tend to really benefit in terms of vitality from manual labor. And so for the men out there, manual labor like cleaning the house, scrubbing the floors, washing, doing the laundry, it's good for us.
Yeah,
It's good for us.
that's right.
And really that's what I found, even my energy levels. Doing manual labor is good. And really for men, we should seriously think about this. Our bodies need manual labor. And I know it's a digression. So
No, it's not. Vezi, it's not. It's good. We were created to work,
yeah,
to dress and till the ground, to guard, to govern, to protect the environment, the garden, that God, and we could go on and on and on about cultivation, and the garden is organized cultivation, intention, and so farming is that. I remember seeing a documentary about some persons like yourself that left their city life and went out into a farm, and the lessons they learned, because it took time, they had to invest in getting things in order. They learned about the birds and the different pests that come because they wanted their farm to be organic. Um, but at a certain time and season, it all came together. It all
mm,
came together, and they saw the harvest, and they were able to also anticipate. And I think that's also part of leadership, being able to
mm.
anticipate because you understand the terrain. You shared about that earlier, understanding the environment that we're in. Um,
Yeah.
and that's so important. And yes, sometimes go out to the farm, go outside into the more rural places and just look up and turn the cell phone off. Enjoy those moments of just thought. And for me, like that, as you pray and you hear this quiet, and I imagined as you were talking, when it talked about God walking with Adam, there was this quiet and this peacefulness
Mm, mm.
in those environments. So how important environment is. So I know we could do a whole topic about that, but
Yeah.
you've done so much in your life. And I know there's still more that you're working on, but could you share with our audience maybe two or three things that have really guided your life to this point? Your mantra, your ethos, your north that you live your life by.
Yeah, and in so many ways, I think it's tied to that whole purposeful living. Um, and maybe let me say, my life started with me being a head, a cow header in the rural areas of northern KwaZulu Natal in South Africa. And so as a cow header, there were particular rules that we lived by, and one of them was uh, uh, you subdue or be subdued, and so that whole cow herding formation um, uh, was something that I had to later confront and deal with in life because I realized that I cannot go through life through subduing others so that I can get things done. And so the first thing, therefore, April, that I think helped me to uh, uh, to start looking at myself was I actually met an Englishman from England and I was at varsity, and he started mentoring me, and so uh, finding a mentor. He found me, and I think it was God's provision, and in a sense, he facilitated for me to engage in a journey of discovery of myself. So, mentorship is something that, as leaders, we need to take seriously. And if I shudder to think, with my background as a cowheader, with my philosophy of subdue and be subdued, where I might have ended up had I not found that mentor. The second, I would say, second most impactful guide in my life was my wife, who prayed, who labored in prayer for me. And again, for me, I just highlight that it always makes a huge difference when you have someone in your life who prays for you and somebody who you pray for. And I believe that has a huge impact on the direction of where we go. The final thing, which in many ways continues to carry me in my life, is the example of Jesus Christ. I still intend to write a book how the teachings of Jesus Christ were unprecedented in every conceivable way. And I know there's been a lot of people who try and position or argue that the teachings of Jesus Christ were derived from the Greek philosophy or maybe this and that. But I find that those teachings stand tall, tower above everything that's been conceptualized by man to date. Loving your neighbor, praying and blessing your enemies, um, and living a life that is cognizant of your ecosystem, and consistently seeking to add value. And so for me, that continues to be my North Star. Um, and I believe, I come from Africa, where we are confronted with big problems such as poverty and lack of, economic growth. Um, and I believe that the teachings that Jesus Christ gave us and the example he modeled us are the kind of teachings that we need to be able to overcome these big systemic challenges that we face, even in our time, even now. And if I can live it fully in and invest myself in loving my neighbor, and everyone in my neighborhood does the same, and every one of us in our country do the same, these systemic injustices and poverty it will be a thing of the past, and I really believe that. And so that's really for me my guiding light, because I believe the the potential systemic impact um, of the example that Jesus Christ left us.
I concur, Vezi. When Christ came and they asked, "What's the greatest commandment?" And what did he say? All the rules and all the things that you do. Love the Lord with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. So it is unfortunate, Vezi, because when you see people do things to others that is not demonstrative of love, it is
Mm.
reflective of how they feel about themselves. Because if I love me, I will love you. What he said, love your neighbor as yourself. And so what a
Absolutely.
powerful teaching. That goes into something we call the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Um, the Ubuntu, right? I am because you are.
Yes,
This
yes.
combination of dignity and worth and solidarity, respect for each individual, all that together is tied together. And as you said, a system is an ecosystem in itself, right? Love and the power of love. And so, wow, Vezi, much. Uh, have a mentor. Mentor is important, no matter how successful we are. It's important to have someone who mentors us and speaks into our lives.
Yes.
And also we're able to speak, and they can speak into our life in turn. So you have this relationship with reciprocity. And
Yeah.
then, yes, your wife, beautiful, beautiful, talented, gifted singer, uh, psalmist, writer, creative, um, that you pray for each other, that she prays for you, and that, you pray for her.
Yeah.
I love the description in Proverbs 31 when it talks about this virtuous woman, because I know you found her. And it says that the heart of her husband trusts safely in her. And so I
Wow.
think that is, read that chapter really fast. That's very powerful, because our human interactions certainly should be based on love, but also it's on trust. That's in business. In the from everywhere, you're trusting that people do what they say they'll do, that people are who they portray themselves as. And so trust is a currency. And when it's broken, it's hard to regain that back, because someone invest their belief in the authenticity of you.
Yeah.
And that's trusting your work and etc. So, wow, Vezi, what would the man you are today say to the young boy you are? What would the man you are today say to the
Mm. I love that question because it's actually quite powerful. Um, in the sense that, I'm currently involved in a project where I'm facilitating, or I am part of a group that's facilitating for the older men to write all the lessons that they can pass down to the next generation. Um, and this is what I would say to my younger self, having journeyed the path. Number one, I would say that your potential is limitless. I would affirm that young boy that you can change the world. Um, find your purpose. Uh, the sooner you find your purpose, you invest in your capability of living out your purpose. Um, the the sooner you will find meaning and significance in how you serve others, in how you love your neighbor, and how you make a difference in the world. I would tell the young man uh, that there's only one thing when it's all said and done that matters in life. It's the legacy that we leave in other people's hearts. I read recently that in our lifetime, we get to influence about 11,000 people. That's more people than most churches have, people in them. And I believe, in fact, I don't know when this research, so when it dates. I believe that probably in the um, in the 21st century, in the age of social media, we probably influence many, many, many people. And so I would say to that young man, pay attention what legacy you leave in those people that you're going to influence. Um, and that is the one thing that you will ever leave behind. So yes, that's I love that question.
wow, your potential is limitless. Your potential is limited. Limitless. Wait, your potential is limitless, right?
That's correct.
So no matter where you find yourself presently, you don't have to stay there because your
Yeah.
potential is limitless. And number
Yes.
two, pay attention to the legacy that you leave in others' hearts. Mm, that's good. That's very good. I'm 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 pondering on that. I'm meditating on that. Pay attention to the legacy that you leave in others. You know, because it reminds me, there's this quote that says that the only thing that walks back from the grave is the character of the deceased. You can't take anything with you, but people will remember who you are, your legacy as a person. Ooh,
Yeah.
Izzy, it's been great today. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, I'm so full. So many things. I have lots of notes that I learned from you today. And I'm sure that our audience has as well. And of course, um, we are just honored for you to share your time with us, to leave some of your legacy in us and what you shared in mentoring us today, that our potential is limitless, that even discipline and rigor are important to our lives. Discipline is important to our lives. And certainly discovering purpose, who we are, and knowing there's a journey. And even if there's a few detours, some delays, we're still on this journey of purpose and releasing that purpose into the world.
Yeah.
Crazy, thank you so much. And our prayer for you at Exceptional Living is that you will continue to build your legacy, continue to make transformative change in the lives of others, helping them to discover themselves and to master their person, to make a difference positively in the world. So thank you so much, Vezi. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I love your work. I love how you are able to amplify and clarify in such a brilliant way whatever I was trying to say. And it's been an honor to be in conversation with you, my sister, Dr.
Thank
April Ripley.
you. Thank you. Thank you. It's because of inspiration, Vezi. I breathe in and it came out. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you so
yeah,
much. Yes.
awesome, awesome, awesome
Exceptional living.
conversation. Yeah,
I told you our special guest, Vezi Mncwango. What a powerful conversation today about self discovery, personal mastery, the journey to purpose, staying the course, some rigor, certainly discipline, having mentors in our life, but knowing that it's all to the good of this generation and that to come, which we call legacy. So be sure to like, subscribe, and share this broadcast. And until we meet again, I remind you always that you were created to live an exceptional life, unique by design. Thank you for joining us. God bless you.